welcome back to Update On, and we're continuing our theme about living well. And my partner in crime, Azar, is of course with me, can't do these without her. And she has again brought her personal trainer, who is very good. I mean, she might even get me to start doing this kind of stuff. And at my age, that would be quite a feat. Rhonda, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, we all have backaches.
Yes.
So,
One time or another.
well, my children keep telling me I am one, but we won't go there. But this is fairly ominous.
The spine.
Yes, our basis of being upright. And
Yeah.
that is the problem from what you've been telling me.
For people that sit at a desk all day long, or people that are constantly in this forward-leaning position, whether it's taking care of children or over a stove or moving boxes or whatever it happens to be, our spine then has to come out of its neutral position, and it creates muscle aches for people.
And not just people that sit at a desk. My husband's in construction, and his back is always bothering him.
And that would be a different lifestyle. And so whenever the spine has to accommodate for changes in our position, then it begins to form different ways of moving and using different muscles to support that different position of the spine. And that's where the pain starts coming in.
And a lot of us will bump into something or will hurt something or, God forbid, have a skiing accident. I mean, that tree just jumped out in front of you. And so you compensate when you're carrying around that cast.
Yes, and the compensations then become a normal way that our body moves instead of the neutral spine that we're supposed to be moving from.
So what's a neutral spine?
Okay, so we'll look at Mr. Spine.
Mr. Spine.
Mr. Spine. So you have a cervical spine, which is your neck, that has the inward curve, and then the thoracic spine has the kyphotic curve, which comes out.
Please
and
go into English.
An outward curve, and then the lumbar, which is the very bottom of the spine before you get to the sacrum, has that inward curve like the cervical spine.
So there is a curve.
Yes, there is a natural curve, and it when you're standing with good posture in a neutral spine, your head sits at the top of the neck, and then your shoulders are coming out from here, and the shoulders, the hips, the knees, and your ankles will all form a straight line.
Okay, the way you're taught when you take a ballet lesson.
I've never taken a ballet lesson, but that extension that I've seen used in teaching that, the extension up through the crown will then help bring into neutral spine.
And you really need to do that if you're going to do some of the athletic moves that ballet requires.
And for balance as well.
Exactly.
Balance, when your spine is in neutral position, you have the better balance that way. And so, for instance, sitting at a desk, all right? So the leg bones are sitting out 90 degrees is the optimum desk seat. And then what happens is you have the lumbar, the hip flexor muscles, the psoas muscles that come from the lumbar spine, and they connect from this side into this bone and from this side into this bone. And when you sit at a desk for long periods of time, that muscle gets very short.
And you pinch it.
And you can pinch the vertebra in your lumbar together because the nerves come through the bony structures, and when that happens and the vertebra compress, there's not enough space for the nerves to go through, and they create pain.
I found out when I sit cross-legged, it's easier for me to keep my posture up than when I have my legs down. Which one is better?
Assuming though when you cross, well, it's better to sit with 90 degrees, not crossed, because when you cross, you cut circulation off in your legs when you cross this way. And your feet should be flat on the floor, And 90-degree bend at the knee, 90-degree bend
Just
at the
like
hip.
this?
And then when you sit with that extension up through the crown, you'll feel your chin come in a little bit toward your spine, and then your shoulders will sit down and back. And that is the optimum seated position, but most people don't end up there very long.
Well,
And-
the hassle with for most people is that their chairs never fit them.
That has a lot to do. And so if you sit and your feet are up here, right, and then you end up
Well,
Doing all
I
this-
end up sitting on an angle because I have extremely short legs. I mean,
in
when-
an angle. Do you mean like?
I mean that I sit with a pillow or something, and this for me is straight. But I will sit more toward a corner because I have 24-inch inseam, and that is ridiculous.
So you put a pillow and then you tip yourself.
You got it.
Okay.
Which is not very good at all, but it's the only. Look, my feet are dangling.
Right, and so the accommodation, the best accommodation would be to get a small footstool and to place your feet on top of the footstool. And so then you bring the floor to you.
Like our great-great-grandmothers did when they were doing their needlepoint.
Right.
Absolutely, that's exactly right.
So we are all going to be ladies. We're going to have grace.
And when you
And culture.
when you sit up there with a neutral spine, your brain will feel that more. And also the
circulation, hip circulation too.
It absolutely does, and the neurological network
Right.
up to the brain. And also, most of us sit with a computer, with a keyboard, or a mouse, and this. And so, the optimum position for the shoulders, once you've seated yourself with a neutral spine, is your elbows right beside you, and then 90 degrees, and then your keyboard will be here.
I try to put my hand on the hand and work as much as I can.
You want You want your elbows to be able, because otherwise you'll start going. Or the tendency might be, if you're very comfortable and you have no. These are suggestions to be made to people that have pain. They have stiffness in their low back. They have stiffness in their neck. If you are very comfortable at your workstation and you don't have any pain or discomfort, and you can go about your daily activities,
No, I
then
do.
you keep doing what
Well,
you're doing.
The thing is, I don't type with 10 fingers. I do with 2. So it's,
Oh, you're one of those.
yeah. So it doesn't matter. I don't have to move around that much. The keyboard, and I go as close as possible to my computer. So I go in under the desk. So I'm very close to the computer when I work. And I always sit up and I have something for my lumbar in the back. So it doesn't let me sink back. So I'm just square.
Well, the same thing holds true if you're standing up at a workstation. A lot of
Right.
people now are working standing up. Somebody's told them it's better for them. It's become one of the trendy things to do. A few years back, they were sitting on roller balls.
Balls, right. I remember that.
And they're still recommending those stability balls for people that sit at a desk. The thing is with the balls or anything that you're going to sit on is you can just as easily end up here, whether you're on a ball or standing up at your workstation. You can be this way or seated. So you have to make a conscious effort. And during the course of a day, to help you with that is to interrupt yourself on a regular basis. So what my recommendations for a work day for people that sit at a desk, every 20 minutes, have the little balloon pop up or get a little timer for your desk and take a drink of water, because we talked about hydration is very important for your muscles. And then stand up and sit down 3 times. Uses your large muscle groups in your legs and your butt to
Okay, so
pump
you're going
blood.
to stand up, not putting your hands on the chair to push yourself up. You're saying to stand up using your thighs.
Thighs and bellies, basically.
If you
can.
can. I mean, if standing up is very difficult for you to stand up and sit down, then use the accommodations that you need. There's nothing wrong with that. The idea is to get your leg muscles and your hip muscles to squeeze the blood and then accept more blood and to squeeze through
And
that.
this is why large muscle movement is so important, particularly
Yes.
for kids. And now we are getting rid of recesses, and we're putting kids on computers. In the 3rd grade, they're teaching touch typing now, so that we're not giving them good practice, shall we say?
As far as their physical activity is concerned, we have to schedule it into their days for them so that they get used to knowing that they need to continually move their body to stay healthy, to circulate the blood, to increase or maintain the elastic properties of their connective tissue, so that when they do sit and they stand up and they start moving around, the body will be able to accommodate that and not be stuck in that shortened, tightened position.
One more thing about when you were talking about your husband being in construction, many people, they don't know how to pick up the stuff from the floor, and that hurts their back more. And I have noticed that when I do it properly, I have no problem. But sometimes when I forget and I do it wrong, I can feel it on my
But
back.
the folks in construction are very mindful of that because they do it all day long. And they actually push people to do it right because it is something that they could be hurt on the job. And the idea of having no accidents and nobody hurt on the job is very paramount in all construction sites.
No, I was not talking about only construction. I
Right.
said, when you said it, I remembered
Right.
people don't do it properly. You know, you can show it to us how to do it, you know.
So when you were talking about standing up and sitting down from your chair, before you even add anything to be picked up, you want to plant your feet, then you shift your weight forward over your feet, and then you use these muscles to stand up with. So that's creating an extension in your hips. And the spine, when we talked about the muscles that come through from the lumbar to the front of to the insides of your leg bones, those glute muscles create that extension of the hip. So when you come up, the hip extends forward, and that's the safe way. So if you're okay getting up and down that way and you need to practice and practice and practice, then when you go to pick something up, you use that same form as you go down to pick it up, whatever it is you want to pick up. Then these
And you
muscles,
bend your knees.
and you pull it back up to you. So it's the same concept, except that your body weight, the center of gravity, shifts a little bit further back to accommodate, and then your back comes into a little bit more extension to accommodate that extra resistance of picking whatever it is up.
And when you're dealing with children and groceries and sports equipment and library books, which are very heavy,
And we carry on one side or on the backpack,
and we've all carried these humongous purses that have been so fashionable forever.
exactly, and that's a
Heavy
good point
purses.
as far as the purses and the sacks that we carry with all of our stuff, our computers and our books and everything. If you're used to carrying it on one side because you're maybe right-handed, you carry it on your left so that you can use your right hand, and vice versa. It's a really good idea to start alternating sides so that the muscles don't become more and more out of balance, because that will then shift the spine
I
as well.
noticed that younger folks put everything in a backpack. And particularly my friends that cycle there, they've got their smart pad and all their stuff, so they can check everything, and they've got the stuff on the handlebars that tells them where they're going. I wonder if the handlebars stuff says recalculating on them. But anyway, is there any danger with those backpacks?
The heavier weights, especially for the children that put all of their books in and they're carrying that on their back, the compression in the spine is dangerous, especially for the children, because their growth plates are still active and still moving. Their skeletal system isn't developed all the way yet.
I noticed that a number of vendors, including LLB, have what looks like a backpack, but it's a small rolling suitcase,
Oh.
which looks like a very good idea to me.
And it has
It's rolls, and you pull it behind you, and the Spider-Man appeals to me. It just should light up or something.
When you said these book bags, I remember when I was in college, and I used to go early in the morning and come back late at night, or come home, and I put so much weight on my book bag that I was crossing the street literally as soon as I went down the steps, I couldn't control myself. I went backward, and I couldn't get up. It was really hard to get up because backpack was pressing against my shoulders. I couldn't even pull them back. Somebody had to come and help me. And you're right. A lot of kids put a lot of weight on their book bags, and that hurts.
But I'm not saying that rolling their weighted items is the way to go either. But if
It's another alternative.
If you progress, if you have to go from carrying nothing on your back to carrying 40 pounds on your back, then you want to roll it behind you. But you can use the natural progression of the body's ability to become stronger by putting one book back there and practicing carrying that one book in good form. And after about 2 weeks, put another book in there. And so you'll progressively get stronger and create the muscles that you need to carry more weight on your back. There's nothing really wrong per se to adding resistance to your body as long as you progress the resistance in
Well,
the
we take
pathway.
it for granted that everybody sits at a desk. Now, I'm one of those weird people that sits at a sewing machine.
Okay, well, you're still seated,
You're
right?
still seated, and they sell these things that you wear to pull you back so that you will sit up straight and get better posture. I've never been sure of them. I'm not about to have one. But in the old days, sewing machines, Azar is much younger than I am. She's about the same age as my daughter. We won't go there. There was with sewing machines were cabinets. There was a lever that you ran with your knee. So now, for somebody like me, the foot pedal is down on the floor. I end up. I apologize, Ruben, who's directing. I end up scrooching up as far as I can get to the foot pedal. And I'm feeding through, be it a serger or a regular straight machine. And so I only sew for about 10 minutes at a time, where I used to sew for 5 or 6 hours.
And what bothers you?
Well, everything bothers me. I'm an old person. So the eyes look at it and go, oh, is this going to be a straight line? And the back gets mad. But I know from experience that I can only sew for so long. And then I go into another room and do something, maybe some cooking or maybe some cleaning, and I come back to it.
And so you've made your interruption to that particular movement pattern that you know if you do it too long that you're gonna have a painful
We
issue.
don't make a dress in one day to wear tomorrow anymore. Azar used to do that. I used
Wow.
to do that.
Yeah.
And you just,
Good old days, huh?
good old days.
So the seated position that you were talking about, whether it's a sewing machine or at a desk, there are some exercises that you can do to help release the tension that you've created by being in that flex position at the hip. And so
You wanna show me?
Azar is going to be
Guinea pig.
the guinea pig. So you want to come down on the mat, and you're going to put your left knee down on the mat, and the right foot is going to be under your right knee in the split position. Okay, are you comfortable there? Okay, so I'm probably not supposed to be. The
you're
muscle
fine,
that's
you're not
here,
blocking.
you're going to contract this glute, and you're going to take your whole body forward until you feel. You got to take the butt with you too. So your hip, the whole body forward. Do you feel a stretch in the front? Okay.
Yes, I do.
So,
Right here.
so the muscle that goes from the lumbar spine that comes through the hip and inserts into that the femur, the leg bone, is now being stretched as you use the butt muscle to extend the hip forward. And then you would come back and you would do the other side. So just switch your legs.
Because I have to be on the 90-degree too.
Yep.
That's what I'm trying to
So you're going to
adjust
extend up through
myself.
your crown, relax your shoulders. The first thing that happens is that your butt muscle squeezes, and then you draw your
Yes.
whole body in one line. Okay, so you got to take so the whole body from the crown of the head down to the knee is going to go forward. Yes.
Okay.
Do you feel the difference in your
Yes,
hip?
I do.
So the tuck, it's not a tuck, because when you tuck, then you're taking your lumbar with the leg, right? And it's not a tip, because you still have the flexion in the hip. You want to take the whole body in one line from the knee to the head. Now, some people do this standing up, and there's not a problem with that, and it works. Okay, thank you. It works just as well standing up. But if you've got a compensation somewhere, whether it's a knee or shoulders, by going down onto your knees, the lever arm becomes shorter.
That's
And you can
why
really
it's
target the hips.
important that you do things with somebody that knows how to do it properly, watching you.
Yes, so that any type of accommodation. you
Well,
can-
that's why dancers work with a mirror in front of them.
And so
And
that's it.
and a nice lady with a stick that does time.
Well, mirrors they help as well, especially if maybe a friend of yours comments, your shoulders look really slumped. Do you feel okay? And you may not even know that you're this way.
And for the
unless somebody points
ladies
it
out there, gentlemen, close your shell-like ears. For the ladies out there, I noticed when Azar was working and when you've been working, it makes the girls sit up perkier.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in alignment, everything else in your body lines the way it's supposed
That's
to be.
exactly
You
right,
need taller
because
too.
your chest are over your front ribs. Your 12 ribs, 10 of your 12 ribs connect to the thoracic spine. So when your spine is in neutral position, the ribs are able to sit where they're supposed to, and then that lifts
Lifts what you want lifted.
like your head.
Your head lifted, your shoulders back. I think we have about 4 minutes. We did not. I told you we always go fast.
Just can you
Yes.
say, quickly what we can do early in the morning when we get up, during the day? Basically, what you talked about, it was during the day.
Yes.
And at night before we go to bed.
In the morning, the body is well rested. It's been repairing itself. Hopefully, you had a restful sleep, and so in the morning, you need to get your blood circulated. You need to get your connective tissue to start moving around, and you need the body to warm and the joints to become mobile again after laying during the time that you were sleeping. So any type of breathing exercise is going to warm up the ribs and the spine, where we talked about the breathing, where you inhale in and then exhale. And the only thing that I'll add from the previous show is that when you're inhaling and you get that nice lift in the torso, you want it when you exhale then through the belly, you want to maintain your lift, and then the joints in your spine will continue to be hydrated.
And the more often you do this, your body will start to come into alignment because you're teaching it.
Absolutely.
You're patterning.
And at night, you want to reset, allow the body to reset before you go back to sleep. So that exercise that we did with opening up the hip flexors, you can do that during the day. You can do that in the evening. Lying down on your back and thinking about bringing the ribs and the hips in a contraction will help relax.
And one more thing,
Yeah.
when in the morning, most of the time I used to, before I learned these things, as soon as I would open my eyes, I was out the bed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like that.
If
and
you-
right into the shower,
Because
and-
we're in a hurry.
Exactly, but we can, give few minutes to ourselves now.
Absolutely, and we
to
talked
do these things.
Marcia talked about that a little bit, about how set your intention for the day.
Figure out what you plan to do for the day, what you want to do, what you have to do, and just go through it, and then you you're not going to worry, what did I forget?
And think about your body. If you start to wiggle your fingers or wiggle your toes, and okay, how do I feel? Do I need to move a little bit?
And make your joints go in circles, your ankles and your wrists.
Absolutely, and kind of move your joints around and allow that fluid to be brought in and to warm
Basically, what you're talking about, we have to be present in a moment.
Yes.
Appreciate our time, and as my father used to say, put your attention into your intention.
Yes.
So
Which is
in
a
a
good way, Azar,
Yes,
because
and that's you.
we are coming to the end
of our
Cheers.
program.
of our
Cheers.
program, and we are hydrating.
Yay!
One of Azar's tricks: put fruit in your water. It's much better for you than buying the stuff with all of the preservatives.
And today's blueberries.
Today is blueberries. So, wish you all a pleasant, productive day. And we'll see you next time. But first, particularly in this awful week, because we are taping this on July 22nd, we pray for peace
We do.
for
Always.
every nation, everywhere. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda.